Good afternoon, guys. This is Eric with the Get Me Out of Here vlog, and today I am in Chicago. We're about 3 weeks into this pandemic, this stay-at-home order from the state of Illinois. I know that really the only reasons we should be leaving our homes is for essential businesses that are vital to keep society rolling, and also to go out and do some grocery shopping, get some necessities at retail stores that you may need at home during this time. But it's so beautiful out. It's springtime. It's April. It's like 65 degrees out today. It's gorgeous. And I feel like driving around and just showing what Chicago looks like during a pandemic. I'll keep my social distancing, just doing a little driving. It's a one-in-a-lifetime opportunity because this doesn't happen very often. So let's see what Chicago looks like during a pandemic.
Ooh, when I was young, I looked to the future and things to come. Wanted fame and success, wanted the good things, I wanted the best. And now those days are gone, just memories of a song, but the tune and the lyrics carry on. My guitar and me is the only future these eyes have seen. In the alleys and the streets, but there's a certain tune that I keep. And on that judgment day, when I don't awake, this song, this tune I'm gonna play.
We got the bums. Look, he's dancing. The guy's giving him money too. All right. Welcome everybody. This is Eric, your host, your tour guide today through the streets of Chicago. Come with me, get comfy, get some snacks. I'm going to take you on a tour of the streets through the historic coronavirus pandemic. I'm also testing out a brand new Blue Yeti microphone that I picked up today at Best Buy. First time I've ever used this thing, and I really like the audio quality. I'm already hearing from it on some tests that I ran earlier. So I'm hoping to improve the audio quality going forward with some of my videos in the editing process. All right. So right now we are looking eastbound on Ohio Street. This is Michigan Avenue, the famous Mag Mile running north to south. And the lakefront is actually straight ahead of us, way out in the east as well. The first thing that I've noticed is there is hardly any traffic on the roads right now. Compared to most Friday afternoons, this is the peak of rush hour. There is bumper-to-bumper traffic, lots of taxis, lots of Ubers, lots of Lyfts. Crowds of people shopping up and down the Michigan Avenue here, and you can see that there's hardly any traffic at all, which is unprecedented for a Friday afternoon. Because it's so nice out, there are people out running, walking their dogs, going for walks themselves, taking advantage of that. But compared to a standard Friday afternoon during rush hour, this is hardly anything at all. It's so weird to be driving through the Magnificent Mile and seeing hardly any people walking about. It's also crazy seeing all of the stores and businesses on Michigan Avenue, on the famous shopping district here in the Mag Mile, completely closed up. We drove by the Disney store and we actually saw that the front store windows were completely boarded up. Somebody had sealed and boarded up the entire storefront, which I thought was kind of weird, being that it is a virus pandemic, not a hurricane. Not really sure why they would go above and beyond to board the windows, but they did. So it was rather eerie driving along this famous shopping district and seeing a lot of the businesses closed, and just again how dead it was with not a lot of people shopping or walking about at all. You can see the famous John Hancock building there on the right, and that is the historic water tower that survived the Chicago fire of 1871. We are now heading west on Chicago Avenue. We just left the Streeterville neighborhood and are now in the near northwest side neighborhood of Chicago. And will you look at that, we're stuck behind a city bus. You guys are really experiencing Chicago in the big city now when you have this. And great, the sun is in our faces too. So because the sun is glaring at us and we're stuck behind a bus, let's speed this video along. All right, so we jumped ahead. We're actually heading southbound again on Interstate 90. You can see the Sears Tower and the Chicago skyline ahead of us. We decided to go check out the South Loop. So we're going to head down there and see what things look like around the South Loop area of Chicago during this pandemic.
In 2 miles, take exit 52, Seaport 18th Street.
We are passing by the Loop of Chicago there to the east of us, and you can see right up ahead, yes, that's what you're seeing. It is road construction season. Come early this year due to the pandemic. There are less cars, less people traveling on the roadways, so a great time to improve the crumbling infrastructure of America. In fact, it looks like there's an entire new stretch of expressway going up down here. It's been a while since I've been on this side of the city, but I'm glad to see that our tollway expenses have actually been going to something now. That's good to see. Progress. All right, well, there's really nothing exciting to see here on this stretch of the interstate, so let's speed things up again.
America, better opportunity.
All right, we are heading eastbound on 18th Street. This is Pilsen neighborhood near the South Loop in Chicago. We're actually getting very close to Chinatown, which is just a few blocks to the east of here. You can see there is nobody walking around on the streets, not a lot of traffic happening. To give you guys a little bit of the background story here, on March 16th, that is the date the state government here in Illinois ordered all of the restaurants and bars to close to dine-in customers. From that date on, they have only been allowed to cater out or perform delivery or pickup services. On March 21st, a stay-at-home order went into effect for the entire state of Illinois in hopes to help slow the spread of the coronavirus. Now, people are still allowed to travel to and from work, go to the grocery store, hardware stores are still open, jobs and errands that are essential to everyday life, whether that's also caring for loved ones. So we aren't exactly in a home lockdown. We're also allowed to go outside, and many of the parks in the state of Illinois are still open, although I did read that the state parks are currently closed. It's also worth noting that Mayor Lightfoot here in the city of Chicago has closed all of the major city parks, as well as all of the beachfront and lakeside parks here in the city. Although that took an effect here, there are still many parks open in the surrounding suburbs. All right, we are currently driving northbound on South Clark Street. You can see a beautiful view of the skyline up ahead. I personally love seeing the Sears Tower from the south side. It's one of my favorite views in the city. The plan is right now we are going to find parking here in the South Loop and get out and walk around and document what we see. This is such a historic time period that we're living through right now, and I have never seen the city of Chicago this empty, this quiet. It's just such an unusual sight to see that we decided we have to get out and walk around a little bit and just get a feel for this and document it.
And then if you can find any parking here in this see, it's the movie theater, the Icon Theater. If you can find parking, and then just walk around here, because this is just a great viewing area, personally.
Everybody's got masks on. There's the theater you were talking about?
Yeah, it's at the end of this thing.
Gotcha.
And then I think you can go in there for parking. Let's see if it'll let you.
Right here?
Yeah.
Can I go left?
Yeah. The other way, it takes you all the way around the court.
Okay, well, we're gonna park and walk around. GoPro, turn off. Okay, we just parked in this big parking garage in the South Loop. We're gonna get out and walk around and take some pictures of the skyline of Chicago during the COVID-19 pandemic. I wish I had a mask on right now, I'm not gonna lie, just being in the city, but we're gonna do this anyway. It should be fine. We're gonna keep our social distancing and we're gonna be outside. But it's gonna be interesting to see how slow and quiet the city is throughout all this. Follow me. Don't touch the handrail, Bill. Too late. You got coronavirus. All right, well, here is the south side of Chicago, the South Loop to be more exact. There's the Sears Tower and the Chicago River. During a pandemic, this is the COVID-19 pandemic, and there's not very many people walking about. There's still a lot of cars driving. There are some people walking with masks on, taking advantage of the beautiful day we have today in the sunlight, but it is, for the most part, very, very slow compared to what Chicago usually is like. Here's just a nice view of the South Loop, looking at the Sears Tower. Just crazy how slow it is today, and for good reason. I mean, people are advised to stay at home. We're keeping our social distancing today, just getting a couple snapshots, and then we'll be hitting the road again back to the suburbs. But I wanted to document this. It's a very unique time period in American history. You can see all the Amtrak trains. Just sitting at bay. One of my favorite late night grills here in the city, and you can see here they're all shut down, and it's already past March 31st and they're still shut down. So here's a view of the Amtrak rail yard in the South Loop of Chicago. I guess what's kind of interesting is one of the first COVID-19 cases in the state of Missouri happened from a girl who flew into O'Hare Airport, stayed the night in Chicago, and took the Amtrak train to St. Louis. She ended up getting several members of her family sick. And that's how at least the tested cases of COVID-19 started in Missouri. Just another view of the Amtrak train yard here in the South Loop. The Chicago River with some of the bridges off in the distance lifted up for the boats to get through. I love this building here. This is a new one, just opened up a couple years ago, but I like the resemblance it has of the Sears Tower. It's pretty cool. But anyway, we're going to keep walking around. Just walking by, I love this random little sculpture with dinosaurs and a woolly mammoth on it, just randomly sitting here on the bridge. This one right here has dolphins on it. I'm not sure what you call a pack of dolphins. I don't know what that term is. What is a pack of dolphins? You can see right there in the distance, I still call it Kaminsky Park, but I guess it's Guaranteed Rate Field now where the White Sox play. Way out there in the distance. All right. Well, that was some of the South Loop during the COVID-19 pandemic and what it looked like in Chicago throughout this, at least today. So we're going to drive around some more and showcase some more of the city for you. All right, we are driving westward right now on North Avenue. And this is Wicker Park, a hipster neighborhood located on the west side of Chicago. There's a destination ahead that I had to check out today that fits the whole pandemic theme, and that is a drugstore. Walgreens to be exact, and there it is right there on the corner. It is one of the most beautiful Walgreens I have ever seen. It is located in a 100-year-old bank that was built in 1920. It's absolutely breathtaking inside. I have never seen a Walgreens like this in my life at any other location in the world. So we are going inside in a moment to share with you the most beautiful Walgreens in the world during a historic pandemic. Everybody's got masks. I can't find a mask anywhere. I guess I just have to go online, order a bunch from Amazon. I don't know. Here's a picture of the outside of this old bank that is now a Walgreens. It's right at this 5th Street intersection here in the Wicker Park area. We're here at the west side of Chicago, and this is one of the coolest Walgreens stores I have ever seen in my life. It's an old 100-year-old bank that they've turned into a Walgreens at the 5 streets, a 5-point block here near Wicker Park in Chicago. This is one of the coolest Walgreens in the country here in Chicago near Wicker Park. It is an 100-year-old bank that they've turned into a Walgreens. It's amazing. It's the most beautiful Walgreens I have ever seen in my life. And they also have a bank vault downstairs where the vitamins are located. It's a vitamin vault that I will show you here in a second. This is so cool. They've got like these digital screens on their coolers. I have never seen that before. They probably had this even before the pandemic, but like it's even better to have this during this because you can see without even touching the handle, you know what's in there. It's amazing. So if you have to go shopping during the COVID-19 pandemic in Chicago and you want something ritzier than a standard Walgreens, they've got this old bank, a beautiful Walgreens that you can shop in. And they've got plenty of supplies here too. Got to keep my social distancing from people, including Bill, where we're a good 6 feet apart. We'll keep it that way. And here it is, the moment you've all been waiting for, the famous Vitamin Vault. It's an actual bank vault in what is now a Walgreens. It's a 100-year-old bank here in the Wicker Park area that is now a Walgreens. So let's go inside the infamous Vitamin Vault. Here we go. Going backwards. During a pandemic, we're in the Vitamin Vault in the heart of Chicago. Well, not the heart of Chicago, but the Wicker Park area, which is a neighborhood near downtown Chicago. And we are in the Vitamin Vault, the famous Vitamin Vault. They even have the old bank boxes that people 100 years ago stored their valuables in. In fact, some of the numbers have been taken. The last time I was here, the number 666 was taken. Let's see if I can find it. Right here. It's still gone. There is no 666. Somebody has taken that. What's cool is they even have old pharmaceutical drugs on display from back in the day here as well. Talcum powder. That sounds terrible. And here's the inside of the vault door. Look at these mechanisms and gears that they have. I don't even want to take a guess on how heavy this thing is. This thing is massive. From a 100-year-old bank, it's amazing. Wow, look at those doors, those door handles. Absolutely amazing, and it is now a Vitamin Vault. I guess it was the old Noel State Bank. All right, well, there you have it. This is one of the greatest Walgreens stores in the country. It's the best one that I've ever seen in my lifetime, and it's here in the heart of Chicago. About ready to leave here. I picked up a couple supplies for the COVID-19 pandemic. But anyway, we're going to be hitting the road here. Amazing. We are currently heading southbound on LaSalle Street, one of the most famous streets for architecture in the world here in Chicago, and we'll get more into that as we get on the south end of the Chicago River up ahead. Right now, we are in the River North neighborhood, named such because we're on the north side of the Chicago River. And here is kind of a nightclub district. There's a lot of famous River North nightclubs there on the right to my west, and you can see the entry to Lower Wacker right there, that tunnel you can kind of see in the middle of the road straight ahead. It's still amazing to me to see that there is hardly any people walking around right now at all. It is a Friday afternoon. Typically there are hundreds to thousands of people walking about to and from work, shopping, doing sightseeing, and the streets are relatively dead. Here we're crossing the LaSalle Street Bridge, one of the many historic bridges that spans the Chicago River. This one in particular was built in 1928 and can raise and lower at one point to allow boats to go through. And now we are entering the LaSalle Street Canyon, a popular term coined because of the many skyscrapers that are looming on either side of the street. You can see at the very far end is the Chicago Board and Trade Building, which we will be getting closer to here in a second. Ahead of us is one of the most historically significant locations in the world for architecture. In fact, the birthplace of the modern-day skyscraper took place just a few blocks ahead. Also, you can see one of the famous Chicago L train tracks directly ahead. That is the elevated railway that's been here in the city since the 1890s. In fact, the neighborhood we're in now is called the Loop, which is named because of the loop the L train makes around this business district. And look, here comes the train now.
There we go. It's green.
Nobody was behind me to honk at me. Again, this is stunning. There is not a single person walking around. This is the second largest commercial business district in all of North America, and it is an empty shell of its normal self. Directly to my left right now is Chicago City Hall. You'll notice the Chicago flag is a very famous symbol here in the city. You will see it everywhere. It has blue and white stripes and 4 red stars in the center. So here is Washington Street. In fact, all of these streets running east to west in this part of the loop are named after U.S. presidents. So let's continue delving deeper into the LaSalle Street Canyon. It's amazing that all of these financial businesses are either closed or essential workers are working from home. I do not see hardly anybody walking around, so I think it's safe to assume that many of these employees are not working here in the loop right now. The street we're at now is Madison Street, and that building up there ahead on the left with the red hue is the Roanoke Building, one of the older skyscrapers here in Chicago. The first 16 floors were built in 1915. We are approaching Monroe Street, and if you look across the street there on the left, that block of buildings, that far end of the block is where the Home Insurance Building was located, which was completed in 1885, making it the world's first skyscraper. That's right, New York. Chicago is the birthplace of the skyscraper. We are now approaching Adams Street and are in the heart of the LaSalle Street Canyon. That red-looking building across the street on the left there is the Rookery. That is the oldest standing high-rise in the city of Chicago. Built in 1888 by the renowned architects Daniel Burnham and John Root. The exterior was also shown in the movie Home Alone 2. It was the setting of Duncan's toy chest. And speaking about movies, if you look straight ahead, that famous facade there on the Chicago Board of Trade building, you may recognize that from the movie The Dark Knight, where Heath Ledger's Joker character gets flipped upside down in the semi-truck. Well, here we are in the heart of the financial district, and it is a complete ghost town. That is the Federal Reserve Bank there on the right with the pillars. And here we are at the end of the line. That is the Chicago Board of Trade building straight ahead, and this is Jackson Street, where we will be hanging a left and heading westward. And I think what we're going to do next is check out Michigan Avenue. So we're going to head north again on Michigan Avenue here just in a few moments. We are headed northbound on Michigan Avenue. This is one of the most popular tourist destinations in the entire city of Chicago. You can see right there on my right is the Art Institute of Chicago, one of my all-time favorite museums and one of the most renowned art museums in the world. On any given day, under normal circumstances, there are hundreds to thousands of people walking up and down this stretch of street, with plenty of museums, parks, 5-star restaurants, bars, and of course the Magnificent Mile coming up ahead with plenty of high-end shopping to do. It is an absolute ghost town right now compared to what it usually is. Hardly anyone is walking around. Now I understand that under the current circumstances, People are not allowed to congregate, and most of the city parks have been closed, including Millennium Park, which you can see right up here on the right. You could kind of see that strange-looking face. It's a weird sculpture that spits water at you. And actually, you can kind of see Cloud Gate, or better known as the Chicago Bean, that sculpture up on the right there. You can kind of see the reflection as we drive by. There is nobody looking at that. In fact, I think all of Millennium Park has been closed off to the public for the time being. I almost said bean there, but being, that's the word I'm looking for. We're going to speed things up here a little bit and head north towards the Magnificent Mile. Let's take a cruise on the entire mile stretch and look around and see how slow things are. Here we are crossing East Wacker Drive and now the DuSable Bridge, which is named after the first settler of Chicago. To the left is the Wrigley Building, named after the chewing gum magnate, and to my right there is the Tribune Tower, another popular building here in the city. So we are back on the Magnificent Mile, which begins at the north side of the Chicago River and runs all the way up north to Oak Street, which is where the Drake Hotel is, and also where Lakeshore Drive begins. Again, it is just amazing seeing one of the busiest shopping districts in America completely empty. All the businesses are closed. Hardly anybody is walking around. This may be the only time in history that this city has shut down like this. Again, to my left is the historic Chicago Water Tower, built in 1869, and to my right, the John Hancock Building, 5th tallest in the city. We've reached the north end of the Magnificent Mile, and I have one more destination in mind that I want to take you on this historic pandemic journey through Chicago. So before we do that, we have to jump on Lakeshore Drive, which is right up here, to get there. So let's get on Lakeshore Drive, and I will speed things up and give you some good views of Lake Michigan. Welcome to Wrigleyville, home of the Chicago Cubs. There's Wrigley Field there on the left, and this is Wrigleyville during a pandemic. Baseball season has been postponed currently. There are no games going on, which is so strange to think that. And this is Wrigleyville with hardly anybody walking around. There's a few people walking dogs, taking walks. That guy's got a backpack. I'm not sure where he's going. But you can see that none of the restaurants, bars are open. Usually there are hundreds to thousands of people, especially on game days. It's just so crazy to think that baseball has been postponed indefinitely. It's hard to imagine a spring or summer without baseball games going on here in Chicago, whether it's the Chicago Cubs or the Chicago White Sox. It's just amazing. So hopefully by Memorial Day weekend, games will be going on again. I'll keep my fingers crossed and we'll see. But in the meantime, let's take a drive around Wrigley Field and just take in the scenes. There's still, quite a bit of traffic I'm seeing driving back and forth here outside of Wrigley Field. A couple people walking around. But compared to what a typical game day would be, it's so quiet and it's so strange. Murphy's Bleachers is there on my right, one of the best Chicago Cubs bars there is, and the famous Harry Carey statue is there on the left. This will mark the end of the tour for today. Thank you so much for tagging along on this tour of Chicago during this historic time through the coronavirus pandemic. I want to leave everyone with one last audio that I think will help us reminisce on better times, and better times are ahead of us. Better times are on the way. Things will be back to normal soon. Thank you so much, everyone. This is Eric with the Get Me Out of Here vlog, and now it's time for me to get out of here.